Okay, so we're going to have a session here with Sheldon and Corinna talking about the plans for transitioning Sheldon from his old computer to his new computer. I'm going to switch over to see Sheldon. There you are. Hi, Sheldon.
Hey, how you doing, Doug?
I'm good. I'm good. So, as a little bit of background for the viewers, you and Corinna have been a client of mine since I think I saw the other day, like back to 2003.
Oh my.
Yeah, as a paid client, and now I've got this new YouTube channel going, and where it's feasible and reasonable, I'm welcoming my paid clients to transition some or even all of my services for them to this YouTube service, which means you don't have to pay for it. At least not the things start during that time. So because of this particular issue we came across with transitioning. Hi, Leon. Am I saying the name right? I see
Yes,
some.
that's
Yeah,
Leon. Yeah.
Leon. All right. Um, because of some issues that came up during this, I realized that, boy, this would be a really nice fit for you to come on YouTube with me. And I asked you about it, and you said, yeah, let's give it a try. So here we go. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this computer. Now I'm going to show the viewers, just point to the two laptops here on my desk. You can't see this right now, Sheldon, but I've got the old laptop here and the new laptop there, and I'm just showing a camera view across my desk just to show them those are the laptops that we're talking about. And they are both Dell computers. And the place that I ran into a glitch yesterday when I was trying to transition to the new computer is I realized that it looked to me like the data on your old computer wasn't going to fit on the new computer because of the drive on the new computer wasn't large enough. Now, since then, we've had some email communications between you and myself and a technical person that's in your organization. And I looked a little closer and realized that one of the things that I was looking at was misleading myself a little bit, but still, there's an issue about space. But as we discussed a little bit more about your intended uses for this computer, it became apparent, well, maybe there's an easy workaround for this. Well, easy. Okay, so there's several topics for us to talk about. One is you're transitioning your purpose, your usage, utilization of a computer a little bit in the sense that you have started doing a new podcast, a video
Correct.
podcast.
Correct.
So that's new for you. And when you tried doing that with your current laptop, it didn't come out real great.
Not great at all.
So you ordered a new computer from Dell. You ordered a very nice computer. It's got a smaller solid state drive than what you have on your old computer. I'm pretty sure your old computer is probably a mechanical hard drive, which is a slower operation. The new computer, I think the NVMe drive on it is 256 gigabytes. I would have preferred to seen a 1 terabyte drive on it. However, the data that you have on your old computer, when I took a closer look at it after my conversations with you yesterday, I came to realize, yes, it would fit, but there'd be very little free space. And solid state drives don't work very well on small amount of free space. They like to have some elbow room because of the way they operate. They're constantly refreshing the data on the drive because the data is stored with an electrical charge. And as you know, like a battery, it doesn't stay good forever on a shelf. So a solid state drive moves the data around periodically in order to refresh the electrical charge where that data is stored. So it needs some elbow room to do that. So as I was looking at the content of your old drive, I see that you have a Google Drive and a OneDrive and Dropbox. And that tells me that those are cloud storage systems, and it looks like all of your data is stored on the cloud. So I'm thinking you probably don't need all of that data full time on your laptop. So here's a scenario where you would. Do you use your laptop a lot when you're not connected to the internet?
Yes,
You do.
I do.
Okay. So you would need that data to be stored locally on the computer's drive. You would not be able to rely on that to be in the cloud storage. So these cloud storage have the capability of just having a shortcut on your local drive to the cloud version of the file, so that you can, when you click on it, it can instantly download that file and open it, and you don't even notice hardly any delay if you have good internet speed. But if there are some files that you need to have accessible to you when you're not connected to the internet, we need to be sure that those are stored locally on the computer. Now, we can have certain folders within your storage area that is permanently on the local drive. I'll call it the C drive. And that way, when you're away, it's going to be there. You don't have to plan for that when you're going to be offline. And then other files that can be stored in other folders where you're relying on the cloud storage as essentially the primary location where those files are located. So
Doug, so let me jump in here, and
Yeah.
Lorena will jump in here as well. So I guess you could say that, for lack of a better term or terminology, I've been a file hoarder through the years. And, you said our relationship goes back all those years. Well, probably a lot of my files might be going back all those years, and they're not needed anymore. They're there because I had the space and the opportunity to keep them. But, if I said, Doug, how about if we got rid of files going back from 2015, back to when we first started our relationship? If we dump that, wouldn't that make a major difference?
Yes, the time required to pick out those and the sorting order for those might be a little cumbersome. It kind of depends upon what they are and where they're stored. That might be the right way to go about it, but there's other ways we could go about it too. Meaning, for instance, we could put everything onto the cloud storage, and then over time, maybe in one or two sittings, or maybe over time, you can flag the folders or the files that you need to be permanently on the computer so that they are there. So we start out with everything in the cloud, and then you just bring what you want to that drive. It's a fairly simple change, and that's one of the training things we would go through these YouTube videos.
Yes. And then the other question I have before, again, Corinna jumps in here is, again, in my email, I tend to still use Outlook, and I'm hard to convert to Google. And so, again, there's a lot of emails there. So again, if I went back to, umpteenth years and deleted those emails, that would make a difference too, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, but I think there's a better way to handle that. As I was preparing the files from your old computer, copying them to the new computer, I noticed one period of time when it was taking a long time on one particular file, and it was an Outlook file. And it looks to me like your email account is actually hosted by Google. I had asked you at one point if you thought your email was hosted by Microsoft, and you thought it was yes, but I don't think so. Outlook is a Microsoft product, but when I went into your Microsoft 365 account on the web, the Outlook on the web didn't have any email whatsoever.
It is Google.
And also, that large file that I saw copying across, it was a Google version of an Outlook file, which told me not only is your email hosted by Google, but Google is synchronizing your email and your contacts and your calendar items between the Google web interface and Outlook.
Now Corinna is saying that it is Google.
It is Google. Good, great.
And not Microsoft, right?
Yeah, that looked pretty apparent. And one of the downsides there is that in the background, your computer is constantly trying to synchronize that content with Gmail, because that's truly where your email is hosted, even though you're accessing it through Outlook. So your computer's busy in the background doing that, and that's going to slow down any any video communications you're doing through that laptop. So your laptop in the background is trying to synchronize Outlook, synchronize Dropbox, synchronize Google Drive, and synchronize OneDrive, although I don't think you're actually using that.
Yes.
But there's a lot of work that it's doing in the background.
Right.
So one of the questions that Corinna asked this morning, I think it was, in a phone conversation, was, do you really need a new computer? And in that short phone conversation, I kind of landed with a yes, but a more accurate answer in that regard is your old computer could provide decent service for what you need, but it would need to be reformatted and built up from ground zero. And I don't think it's worthy of doing that. The experience of transitioning from your old computer to your new computer with your new computer configured in a way that will provide good performance for your video sessions, for your video podcast sessions, is going to be a whole lot easier with keeping your old computer accessible. Whereas if we tried to just wipe out your old computer as it is now and then build it up from scratch, it's going to take a lot longer to do that. And just my gut feeling easily says it's not a smart way to go about it. Now, however, that being said, do you need a computer? Is it justifiable to go to a new computer? Yes, but is this one the right choice for that? That would be another potential question, and I'm not certain of the answer right now for that. So let's have a little conversation about that. You ordered, as I understand, you ordered this computer from Dell's website as a brand new computer.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any reluctance telling on YouTube video how much you paid for it?
No, not at all. It's approximately $1,200.
Okay, that's a good buy. I'm fine with that amount. I've had people come up with numbers in excess of 2,000. Then I'd be saying, well, now wait a minute. Now 1,200 is fine for this. To make it functional for your purposes, there's two things I see that we need to answer, and I think we're coming up with acceptable answers for that. One is, how do we deal with the space? And I think because of the misleading number that I saw last night and potential changes with how we deal with your Google email account, and a lot of that data is obsolete. I think the obsolete data we can commit to the cloud, one of the clouds, and give you an easy method to flag which folders and files you want always available on the laptop. So I think the space, we can work with this, and I don't think it's worth the complications of returning this one and trying to get one that has a larger drive, because all that means is that then we can be flagrantly irresponsible with the data that you keep stored on it. Now, you don't do video editing You're
Correct.
not going to be doing video editing.
Correct. I'm just the host, the show host, and so the my guests come to me via Zoom or Microsoft type program, Microsoft Teams, and I do the interviews with them. So they're being recorded from another location,
Ah,
and then any of the editing or any of the production values are added from at a different site.
so you just answered another question right there, is that the video is actually being recorded by somebody else. You're
Yes,
probably doing this through a web interface, maybe.
correct.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So you're never actually uploading the video to some service. It's recorded elsewhere.
It's being recorded elsewhere. It's being produced elsewhere, and then when that finished product is ready to be launched or put up on a social platform, again, it's usually handled by somebody else. So it's sent to a magazine or other type of media type platform,
Okay,
be it LinkedIn, what have you.
all right, that's great. Then another topic that has we've talked about a little bit is the USB ports. Your old laptop has two USB Type A ports and one USB Type C port. Now, the USB Type A port is the type of connector that most people commonly think of as a USB connection. It's a rectangle shape, almost half an inch wide and 1/16 of an inch tall. You see a little tongue in there. So you've got two of those on the old computer, and you're using a mouse transceiver for a wireless mouse in one of them. And you want to start using a Logitech webcam rather than using the camera that's built into the laptop,
And
and that's a good choice. So the USB Type C, if you have devices that need a USB Type A connector, you're going to have to use an adapter. And that's okay to use. My initial reaction to that yesterday was, well, that's just an extra element that could go wrong or get misplaced or something like that. The USB Type C is the new wave of the future, so it's quite likely as you replace peripheral devices moving forward, they may come with Type C connections. Type C has faster capability than Type A, but nothing that you're doing so far indicates that you need a high speed capacity through that connector. A high speed capacity through that connector would be like if you're copying lots of files from one external drive into your local drive, that would need that. A webcam and a microphone doesn't need that. A printer doesn't need that. You're certainly not harmed by having that.
yes, and the external pieces I have is, yes, I do use a mouse, as you had indicated.
Mhm.
I have an external mic, so I need a place for that. And then I often have an external lighting that I need to plug in. So I really would have three elements that I'm working with.
Yeah. Now, the new laptop has four Type C connectors. However, one of those you're going to need to use for the power, the AC adapter. This is kind of a different thing from old laptops, is the AC adapter doesn't have only one place it can plug into. It can plug into any one of those four Type C ports. So that leaves you with three Type C ports and using adapters for those. So that's really all quite doable. At one point, I was leaning towards you getting a different new laptop that would have Type A ports, but that's only so that you don't have to fuss with those adapters, and that's just not a strong enough reason to go through the trouble of making a change. So I'm kind of okay with this. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it.
All
Yes.
right.
It sounds on paper, it sounds like a good move. Karenna from the audience, any other questions? No, I think she's good. And
All
so,
right.
yeah.
All right. So the next step in our deciding how to go about this is what to do with the new computer to return it to you so that you can move forward. So that brings up a totally new subject that we haven't talked about at all yet, and that is that this new Dell computer has a lot of crapware, if I can use that technical term.
Hey, why not?
So it when it starts up and during the initialization process, there was just a whole bunch of stuff that it was asking, and it's a lot of stuff that Dell puts on these computers to try to sell you other software, basically. Because of what you're wanting to do with this computer and with the justification that I can do this step for free, providing that I'm making YouTube videos with it, what I'm proposing to do is actually reformat that computer with a fresh Windows 10 install, a clean, fresh Windows 10 install, so we get out of all of that excess stuff that Dell has on it. Now, the other way that we could go about it is to uninstall each of the Dell components. And that's not ideal because no programs uninstall themselves well. They don't, they still leave traces. So the cleanest way is to do a fresh format and install of Windows 10.
So Doug,
Then,
jump in here.
yeah,
You're the expert. You're the expert. I trust you. And so if you think, the way you suggest is the way to go, why not do it?
yeah. Then after installing fresh Windows 10, then Windows 10 updates, which I've already done on the new computer, but that's not personally time consuming. I hit buttons and let it chunk away and run and run and run, and then when it's done, I restart the computer and then start it again. So it's not a big deal for that time spent to be down the drain. And I've also already installed your Microsoft 365 software on the new computer, but that also is just a matter of starting the process and letting it run. So it's okay that we would be redoing those two steps. And then connect to your cloud account or cloud accounts for the data. And we're going to have a more conversation about how to select that in a few minutes here. And then this computer will be ready to come to you and be put into service. I'm kind of thinking that it might serve you well to return the old computer to you before returning the new computer. Because what I'm proposing to do here is a few more phases, each of which that I want to make a video over, and that's going to be a little hard to accomplish today. Our intention was to have both of these computers back to you today. But your old computer is currently functional. It could come back to you and be functional to you today, even if the new computer doesn't come back to you today, which is still a possibility, but I'm not certain about that.
And that's fine because I'm not doing video interviews, just as long as I have access to my email. And so I interface with my clients, and I'm able to still do some not Zoom interviews, but have access to any Zoom meetings. So I mean that's what I and some of the files that are there right now. So that's really all it is. Very simple.
Yeah. Okay, so two other things immediately on my mind is how to deal with your email moving forward on the new computer and choices I'm about to give you, and also how to deal with your cloud storage. I have not looked deep enough into the cloud services that you are using to understand where most of your stuff is, but I think it's probably mostly on Google Drive.
Yes,
Okay. And I'm suspecting that you and Corinna share files with each other through Google Drive.
that's correct.
Okay. Um, with the Dropbox that's on this computer, do you use that at all? It looks like it might be a
No,
minor thing or
no,
just residual.
no. Let it go.
Let go of that.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
yeah.
That's a good choice. Then OneDrive is comes with Windows 10, and it also comes with additional storage through Microsoft 365. And because you have a Microsoft 365 subscription account, that gives you 1 terabyte of space each. So it's a huge amount of space, but you're not using near that much. So that's probably not a significant issue to you. I haven't looked yet to see how large your Google Drive is and whether you have any limited space issues there. I'm suspecting you're fine with it.
I am, yes. So the other thing is too, going back to 365, I'm not sure exactly, what that adds to it. Now I know for several years I had a client that wanted me to have access to their email and
Yeah.
use 365. I had a 365 email account with that client. Other
Okay.
than that, I'm not sure just how much use I get out of it.
Okay. All right. I think that is an unrelated issue in terms of preparing this new computer for you. Um, in regards to Microsoft 365, what you really care about is Microsoft Word
Yeah.
and maybe PowerPoint, or is there other Microsoft software that you used? Excel?
Excel, yes.
Okay, so yeah, those are the things that you care about. And I think we could just disable and uninstall Microsoft OneDrive for you. It doesn't seem like there's any serviceable reason for it to be there. So now Outlook is also comes to you by virtue of Microsoft 365. Outlook is a Microsoft product. Your email is hosted by Google. And there's an extra piece of software that is trying to synchronize your Gmail account with your Outlook. So it's trying to synchronize all of that contact back and forth. I used to do that myself. My email is hosted by Gmail, hosted by Google, and I used to use Outlook. And I had that same additional product for the synchronization on my multiple computers. And it causes complications and problems, and it causes a lot of background activity for the computer. So I switched to the web versions of Gmail and Gmail's calendar and contacts and email, and I found it to be a much better experience. So I want to get you a little more educated about the differences and see if it is a viable jump for you to make. I've had a number of clients who want to stay with Outlook because they're comfortable with it. They know it. They've been with it for a long time. And it still might be feasible. Let me ask you a few questions. In Outlook, do you use the calendar for scheduling activities?
I believe that's a yes.
Okay.
Using the Outlook calendar to schedule, or is that all part of Google?
I use the Google Calendar.
Google Calendar, Corinna says.
So I'm suspecting whatever you do in Outlook on your calendar, Corinna sees it through her Google Calendar. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I send Sheldon update on his Google Calendar.
Yes. I don't know if you heard that, but
No, could you repeat that?
yes, she sends updates on the Google Calendar, yes.
Okay, yeah. So that would simplify a function of your computer if you could find it palatable to utilize the Google interface for email and calendar and contacts. So maybe we experiment with that. What I can do now, the way that experiment would go is on the new computer, we go ahead and configure it for your Google hosted email account, so it is there, but also configure your web browser for access to the email and calendar, and you just kind of try them, maybe jump back and forth and see where do you have things that you like about Outlook that aren't replicated in the Google interface, and then talk to me about it and see if there's a way for that can work out for you. I was thinking through this subject this morning as I was walking around the block, and a real life analogy is that when you're accessing your email and calendar and contacts through Outlook, and it's actually hosted by Google, the real life analogy that came to mind is the phrase about having too many cooks in the kitchen. Yes. Because Microsoft is in the kitchen and Google is in the kitchen and trying to show you your email, and my mind just took a little bit further. Is, let's suppose those two cooks in the kitchen are actually both ex-wives trying to prepare a dinner for you and your new girlfriend. It's not going to go well.
And I guess you could also use the old adage of too many cooks spoil the broth, right?
Yeah. So what it takes for Google to provide software to you for their stuff to show up in Microsoft Outlook, Google has to always be watching what changes is Microsoft making to Outlook, and they have to update their product. And it's just a whole lot of extra things in the background that could go wrong or could cause glitches.
And Doug, and maybe you've heard this from other clients, but in my case, maybe it's that fear of change, right?
Sure.
I've used Outlook for so long, and it seems to work for me. And do we make that switch to Gmail, to Google? And I might find, gee, why didn't I do this years ago?
Yes.
I know there's certainly a lot of people have said that to me when I tell them I'm still using Outlook. They shake their heads. And as I say, you've probably heard that from other clients. So yes, maybe now is the time to make that switch.
Yeah. And not only have I heard it from other clients, but it's been my own experience. I've had things where I didn't want to make the change, and then when I did make the change, I find, hey, I like this a lot better. And I have fewer problems. And so I think it's time for you to really take a close look at doing that and see if you can't find that a workable solution. All right, so we've talked about mail, we've talked about cloud storage, we've talked about the two computers, the method of getting something back into your hands today. Now, I think the next task on my plate is probably to reformat the new computer and install Windows 10. I'll be making a video with that. You don't have to be involved in that, but if I have your permission to use your computer for that video, there would never be exposure of any personally identifiable stuff there. Then that means that I can do that without charging you for it.
And you have my permission, so use it, and if it helps you and helps others, yes, please.
Okay, great. Now, as far as the choice as to whether to return your old computer before I do that or not, I'm not settled on that point in my mind, because if I can get to a point with a new computer today and deliver both to you today, that's a bonus. I'm just not sure at the moment if that's feasible for me to do, so I'm inclined to just go ahead and let the day proceed. Does it make a difference to you for what you can accomplish today if I bring the old laptop to you before noon? I'm definitely not going to do the new computer by then. But if that's a big benefit to you, then I would just do that and then not even be trying to make both of them today.
Well, how about this? Let's look at some other alternatives that maybe makes it easier for you. It's really been nice not having a computer for about 48 hours. It's kind of like it gives a whole new meaning to staycation, and so that's good. And I just assumed I wouldn't have a computer here today, this still being the weekend. So if you want to have access to both, please feel free to do so. And I'd even take it a step further, of course, not knowing your schedule, but if you needed it a little bit longer, my Monday morning is pretty well taken up. And so if you needed an extra half day or so on Monday, I'd say, utilize that time as well.
That'd be wonderful. That would be incredible.
As long as I have access to email on my phone, I can be without files for, most of a business day. But in terms of needing it today, I don't need it on the weekend. And as I say, as long as I continue to have email access on my phone so I can respond to a client if necessary, that's really, the best case scenario.
Great. I think that sounds terrific. I think we've covered everything that was on my mind for us to talk about. Anything else on your mind?
No.
Okay.
Well, there would be one other thing. Going back to that email, there are just a ton, a numerous amount of old emails in Outlook. And so the same thing there when we talk about files. Why are they there? They're there. I could probably go back, deleting everything beyond 2019 or 2018. It would probably get rid of hundreds, if not thousands of emails. Would that make a difference as well?
No, I think that'd probably be a waste of time. Assuming that all that history of emails is still available in your Google account in the cloud.
Okay.
It's why keep them on your computer. But because of the way that you have Google downloading to present all of that in Outlook, that's eating up space on your computer. But if we go to the new computer and don't utilize Outlook, or even if we start, so for your transition period, if you eventually give up Outlook, then we can just delete that entire Outlook file because it's all still in the Google account. So no, it's pointless for you to go back and selectively delete stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
So making it easier and simpler, less to do, that's always a good thing. So this video that we're doing right now, we are live recording it. We're not live broadcasting it onto YouTube. What I mean by a live recording is that I don't intend to do any editing. We're recording our conversation live without any edits, and the intention is when it's finished, if approved, we'll upload it. Now, since this is a first experience for you with me on YouTube, we chose to do it this way rather than going straight to a live stream on YouTube, so that you can kind of get an awareness of what I'm doing. So after we're done, I'll be sending you a link so that you have the opportunity to review it and think about it and say, am I really okay with this going up on YouTube? And then if you give me the go ahead, then I'll upload it there or make it public. I'm going to upload it there as a private video and send a link to you through your email, and only your logged in Google account would be able to access it. And that's the way I make a private video, which is something that I even do for my paid clients. Is sometimes I'll make a private video for them that it does have private content, but it's just to give them a tutorial video that would be useful for them, never to be viewed by anybody else. So that's also a service that I'm doing with my YouTube account.
Sure.
And is there anything else in that regard? I don't think so. So if you'll give me a moment here, I'm going to do a sign-off spiel. I'm going to end the recording, and then I'm going to come back to you in the Zoom session with a little more conversation. Okay?
Thank you, Doug.
All right. Thank you. And here's a button here and a button here. So that's the first session with Sheldon regarding his transition to his laptop. And as long as this looks like it's going to work out, then you'll be seeing some more videos that feature Sheldon's computer and Sheldon and or Corinna and perhaps Leon too. And those will eventually become a, let's see, what do we call it? A view list. There's some kind of a list of videos that you can actually go and watch in the entire Sheldon and Doug show. So if you would like to request a session for assistance with your computer, send an email to the address that you see on your screen right now, DougBetts@LiveWindowsTraining.com. Give me an idea in the body of the email what you'd like to have help with, and we'll put it together. So I